Natural Resources Policy and Legacy Finance Committee. Today is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021, approximately 1 p.m. Today we have 2 bills up, and I am going to hand the gavel to Senator Weber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everyone, we first have before us Senate File 483. This bill will be going to special orders, or general orders. And welcome to the committee, Senator. Please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Senator Weber. This is Senate File 483. I do have the A1 amendment, an author's amendment that I would like to incorporate in this. And I also have one change that I would like to incorporate in the A1 amendment, and that is on page 2, delete section 2. Mr. Knopf, have I said that correctly?
Mr. Chair, Senator Ruud, I think the easiest thing to do would be to look on the amendment on line 1.2. What I would do is I would delete section 1 and insert sections 1 and 2.
Okay.
I think that's a cleaner way to do it, and I think for your staff it will help when they're getting this to engrossing.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to incorporate that change, Mr. Chair.
Very good. And just a question, I know this is an author's amendment, but I assume the amendment to the amendment is something is a regular motion at that point. Is that correct, Mr. Knopf?
Mr. Chair, the chair or Senator Ruud is incorporating it, so it'll just be the one motion. So that's the way the amendment reads right now, sections 1 and 2.
Okay.
Delete sections. So with that incorporation, you don't need to take a vote on that.
Very good. Does everyone understand the amendment? Very good. With that,
Mr.
this
Chair,
is an author's amendment.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just got a copy of the bill. I don't have the amendment. So the amendment deletes.
Sections 1 and 2.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
And Mr. Chair, I did just send out to all committee members and staff another copy of the amendment. It was posted. I hope everybody got that.
Okay, very good. With that, this is an author's amendment and is hereby adopted. Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Senate File 483 is really a lot of policy that we already have heard and have passed last year, and it got hung up in the morass of COVID. And so it never passed to the floor. And so this is really policy items that we've already, for the most part, heard and done. What I did in the amendment is on section 1 and 2, we received a late fiscal note yesterday. And because this is policy that we would like to get done, we took that off of there. And it's not that we don't want to deal with those 2 sections. It's just that it gave us a fiscal note, and we'd like this to go to the floor and get some of the policy things that need to be done done. This bill is also tracking in the House of in the House. With that, I have some testifiers, and I'd also like to add that on the amendment also added repealing the shotgun only zone, which we'll talk about as we go through the bill, but I wanted everybody to be aware that that was put in the amendment. I have several testifiers. Mr. Chair, would you like me to go through the bill, or would we like to have testifiers first?
Whichever you prefer, Senator.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let my testifiers go first, and they can speak to the bill, and then if we have questions later, we'll do that.
Very good. First, we will turn to Craig Engwall, Executive Director, Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. Welcome, Mr. Engwall. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, Craig and members. Craig Engwall, I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. I am here on behalf of our 18,000 members who are in 60 chapters across the entire state. We do support this bill in its entirety, and based on the comments today, I will not speak to section 1 and 2 as I was originally going to speak to. And I'll jump right in and speak to section 4, which pertains to carcass movement of farm cervids. And what this essentially does is treat farm cervids that are in interstate movement the same as hunter harvested carcasses. And we think it's just a common sense provision. If a hunter takes a deer out in the Black Hills and harvests it, he or she has to do certain things to take the meat home safely. And this would just do the same thing and eliminate a loophole for farm cervids that would be potentially taken at a shooting preserve or something akin to that. Excuse me, I said section 4. Section 4 is actually, I was speaking to section 5 there. Section 4 pertains to stands in overnight stands in WMAs and wildlife management areas in Northwest Minnesota. This is a very important provision for our members in the Northwest. A lot of the WMAs up in the Northwest are tantamount to state forest land where, because of their size, they're tens of thousands of acres, and stands are allowed overnight on state forest lands. And this provision, which was in place, I believe, for 3 years before it was sunsetted when things were caught up in the other bills, was very popular. I don't think it's been controversial, and we strongly support eliminating that sunset provision and having this law back in place. As to the A1 amendment, we also strongly support this. Our membership last year at our annual meeting passed a resolution to support the elimination of the shotgun zone. A lot of this was based, and we went through the discussion about safety and those things, and hearing the assurances from DNR enforcement that this is not a safety matter, that it was actually about harvest, was very important to our membership. We also looked to our neighbors to the east in Wisconsin who eliminated this shotgun zone about 10 years or so ago, and they have not had an increase in accidents. And so we feel it's a good measure that's supported and by our members and others, and would like to see that included as well. Again, with the changes in the bill for today, I think that's all I need to say for now, and would be happy to respond to any questions that may arise as we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Engwall. Next, we have Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner for the DNR. Welcome, Mr. Meyer, and please proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, members, for the record, Bob Meyer, Department of Natural Resources. Senator Ruud has spoken to the bill. I can go through the bill if people have questions on the sections. I think she did a good job talking about that it has been discussed in committees last year and during special sessions, and it would be a good start to trying to get some more policy done. So I'm just going to stand for questions, Mr. Chairman. Very
good. And what we'll do, members, is we'll go through all the testifiers and then we will ask for any questions or comments that you have. And then we have on the agenda Tim Spreck, Minnesota Deer Farmers Association. Welcome, Mr. Spreck, and please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim Spreck speaking today on behalf of the Minnesota Deer Farmers Association. I want to thank Madam Chair and the bill author for her wisdom in removal of section 1 and 2. There are some issues in there that are gravely concerning for the deer farmers. I won't go into depth. We did submit a letter from the organization, so members could refer to that, which will outline our opposition to these items in the event that they come back again or come up in the conference committee. And also, I'm happy to discuss this at your pleasure at any time. But most importantly, understand that section 1, in our opinion, represents a constitutional property rights violation and a taking without compensation. And those are the most grievous concerns we have. With regard to section 5, just to reiterate, last year we were involved in the language formulation for this. The Minnesota deer farmers understand that transporting any harvested deer does present concerns, and even though we don't, don't like to delve into the hunting side and try and dictate how things are done. We kind of took a pass, but we do support this language. So Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions, or like I said, if there need to be contact in the future, I'm always available. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. That is our official list of testifiers. Is there anyone else on that wishes to testify to this bill? Members, are there any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would like to speak. I know that there's been some concern about taking the shotgun only off in the state. And I will say that the DNR and Deputy or Assistant Commissioner Meyer have done a really good job of reaching out to all of those and having personal conversations with folks about how that would work and the safety. And so I commend them for that, because there were some folks that had some concerns about that, and I think they've done a really good job of answering that. But I want folks to know that, you know, we don't think that this is going to be a statewide problem. And like was stated before, Wisconsin took theirs off 10 years ago and there hasn't been an issue. You know, hunters can currently shoot coyotes at night with high-powered rifles, and they can use handguns in farmland. And so there hasn't been any incidents. And so this really doesn't seem to be an issue. And what we tell hunters all the time, and I think Mr. Engwall will agree to this, is that, you know, you always treat every firearm like it's loaded, and you always control the muzzle, and you make sure of your targets and what's beyond, and you keep your finger off the trigger. And so, you know, hunter education goes a long way towards this issue. And I just want we have worked out this language with both the House authors and the Senate authors and the DNR to come to a good resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will turn to some of the hands that are raised. First, Senator Sinjum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Ruud, for that explanation. I'm just thinking a little bit more about this whole question, and I'm wondering if maybe a couple of questions. If DNR is going, if this passes, we're going to have to give our citizenry some more explanation, in my view at least, about the safety. I mean, I can envision people hunting around just the near perimeter of Rochester, and they do that, you know, with a rifle, and that's gonna concern some people. I just know it will, albeit you know, we can say it's safe, but you know, that's in the eye of the beholder. So so my question, well, I don't think we're going to settle my question because I think I know the answer, but just to ask. Cities have the right to ban hunting in them. Do counties? Does anybody know? Maybe our council?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Knopf.
My understanding is that a county wouldn't have that specific authority. Counties are a little more limited in their authority, okay, unlike cities, but cities and townships can. So cities and towns can okay, establish ordinances. So the county wouldn't be able to, but the town, any parts outside of the city, those could be also. So the Madam Chair and or Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, and members. So there is some level of local control then to this issue if there were a local concern. That's what I was wondering about. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Generally, they're referred to as, and Senator Sinjum, they're referred to as discharge ordinances. It's not a no hunting. You just can't discharge a firearm within the city limits.
Senator Ruud.
Right.
Mr. Chair, and maybe Mr. Meyer can answer this question. Is Rochester in the shotgun only zone? I mean, that's what this applies to, is only the zone where it's shotgun only currently. And I don't know, Senator Sinjum, if it has anything to do with really the regulations in Rochester. It's just the shotgun only zone, and it just says that you may use a rifle, but not that you have to.
Okay.
Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Chair, members, Rochester would be in the shotgun only zone. It's a line that kind of runs, for simplicity's sake, I'll say along the 94 corridor kind of, so it north of the metro a little bit and up to the northwest corners of the state. Let me see if I can find a map really quick to show people. I'm just gonna, why don't you go ahead and then I'll find a map here in a second.
Very good. Senator Sinjum, do you have anything else?
No, I thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't recall anybody ever hunting in our area of the state with a rifle, but I don't hunt deer myself, so I could be wrong on that. But I've just grown up through life believing we're in a shotgun area, and that was it. So, and I think the map will probably show this off. So, yeah, let's proceed with other questions.
Very good. Senator Hur.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is just information gathering on the deer stand section, I believe section 4. Yeah, I do like, as a hunter myself, I do like the convenience of leaving deer stand overnight. And I appreciate that we're putting a sunset to the northwest Minnesota. And that will benefit hunters in many ways. But my question, if the deer stand has been left there for over a period of time, who is that deer stand belong to the DNR, or does it still belong to the owner?
Senator Ruud or Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Hurd, these are just left overnight during the hunting season. They can't be left for a long period of time. It's just overnight during the hunting season, and it's very a specific area where a lot of that hunting is miles and miles and miles of forest. And so it's not like, but it does belong to the hunter, but the deer stands are tagged and have numbers on them. And so so folks would know who owns them.
Okay. So mainly, Madam Chair and Senator Ruud, so mainly just one overnight.
Well, I think it's overnight during the hunting season, and I believe that they are in that area would probably be a 3-week time frame. Instead of like in my area, it's 2 weeks. I think that's a 3-week time frame. So it would be during that 3-week time frame they could leave them overnight.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other hands up.
Mr. Chair, can I?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Sinjum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to, is it Mr. Ingwall? Mr. Ingwall, can you help me? Because I'm going to have to answer this. The question would be, we need to allow rifle shooting in statewide because, and what's the rest of the answer?
Mr. Engwall?
Yes,
question.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, Senator.
In other words, why is this necessary? Why is it necessary?
Well, one of the reasons it's necessary is that for a lot of younger hunters and smaller hunters with smaller build, whether they're young women or young men even, shotguns with slug kick a lot more than a smaller caliber rifle that's legal for other hunters to use. And so we view it as a hunter recruitment issue and a hunter preference issue that, let's say a 13-year-old is starting to hunt, and if you've ever shot a shotgun with a slug, it's got a lot more punch to it than some of the smaller legal calibers. So again, our first analysis looked at safety, and we've been assured by what's happened in other states that have done this, as well as DNR, that it is not a safety issue. And if it improves hunter recruitment in a time when we've been trying for years to keep our hunters, we just feel that it's a sound, safe practice and should be permitted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Meyer, have you found the map?
Mr. Chair, there are other regulations in place in a hunting zone. You know, you can't just charge a firearm with 500 feet of a building, or that's occupied by livestock, or humans and, they're within 500 feet of a corral. I mean, there's a lot of hunting regulations already in place besides the shotgun. And, you currently can use in that area a handgun with a rifle caliber, and you can also use an AR platform modified rifle. So it's not like they aren't using guns that aren't as the same as a rifle.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Ruud. Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Chairman, I think I can show my screen here. Let me just try. I also posted it in the chat. Looks like I have the authority to. Can people see my screen here?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, members, you'll see right here the rifle shotgun restriction zone. It starts basically at Taylor's Falls, runs along Highway 95 to 23, and then up and then over here, 27, up around, and then it comes down, then it follows 94 up, and it ends over north of Moorhead there. So north of that line, you can use any caliber. South of that line, it's shotguns, muzzle loaders, and handguns, as Senator Ruud has just stated. Handguns can be in any caliber. Oftentimes people have handguns that are in 7mm Remington or a 30-06 or a 308, which are very common deer hunting cartridges. And as Senator Ruud alluded to, the federal definition of a pistol does allow AR pistols that look very similar to rifles to be used south of this line. That is one of the biggest things, one of the biggest benefits the DNR sees in clarifying this right now, is because, the definitions are very complicated. We spend a lot of time during the deer season taking questions from individuals about, can I use this? How do I need to use this because of the federal definition of a pistol, things like that. And since this use is already occurring in these areas, we feel that clarifying this zone helps people be safe, helps people understand the rules, and to hunt within the parameters of law. So those are some of the big reasons why we support this.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Sure.
Members, any further questions? Seeing none on my screen. Senator Ruud, would you like to make the motion to move the bill as amended to general orders?
So moved.
Senator Ruud moves that Senate File 483 be recommended to pass as amended and re-referred to general orders. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. The bill is hereby approved and re-referred. Next, we turn to Senate File 12. This bill will be going to state government out of this committee. Welcome, Senator Ruud. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate File 12, I have the A1 amendment.
Okay, Senator Ruud has the A1 amendment, and we would, this is again an author's amendment, and that amendment is hereby adopted. Senator Ruud, would you like to explain the amendment and then the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment simply puts the bill in the order. It's the same language as the DNR uses on their special regulation lakes, and it didn't make sense to have a separate language. So this is the language they use currently already. So we're just adopting the language to make it, to simplify it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Knopf.
you really need to take a vote on the amendment. On the previous one, it was the amendment to the amendment you didn't need to vote on. But even if an author's amendment, you should take a vote on it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Knopf. Regarding the author's amendment, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Most opposed, same sign.
Oh, okay.
Motion's carried. Then as to Senate File 12, any further discussion or comments, Senator Ruud?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a bill that we've been working on, and many in the state of Minnesota have been working on for quite a long time. We did introduce the bill last year, but we weren't able to have a hearing, of course, on it. And now this year, it's become really pertinent because we have seen the fishing pressure. The good news is that we sold 128,000 more fishing licenses than we have previously. But that does put a lot of pressure and strain on our resources. And so we feel that this is something that we have talked about for a very long time. And we worked with a wide variety of people from lake associations, from resorts, from the guides themselves. And we have a lot of folks that have worked really hard and talking to people about this issue. And what it is to take many of our special reg lakes already have 4 walleye and two saugers in possession, 1 over 20. And so this simply makes it statewide. We see that the fishing pressure and all the wonderful new gadgets and gadgets that people use to catch fish and the electronics, and that doesn't make them bite on your hook, but it sure makes it a lot easier to find them. So this is 4 walleye statewide. And we had a lot of folks. It was hard to choose who got to testify today because we have a lot of famous fishermen in the state of Minnesota, Al Linder, Ron Shera. And so, but today I'm proud to have someone right from Brainerd who has worked tirelessly on this issue. And so with that, I'd like to hand it off to Nate Blasing and from Brainerd.
Welcome, Mr. Blasing. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Nate Blasing, and I'm representing the Walleye Alliance Inc. Club. And again, Nate Blasing with the Walleye Alliance Inc. I'm also a fishing guide in the Brainerd area with S&W Guide Service, and I have been for approximately 20 years. The Walleye Alliance is actually a grassroots fishing organization. Our mission statement is to advocate, educate, and promote responsible walleye fishing in Minnesota. One of our main goals is to ensure future generations have quality walleye fishing opportunities in Minnesota. I'm here to speak in favor of Senate File 12, which would reduce the Minnesota walleye state limit from 6 down to 4. A little background on the current limit of 6, which was actually created in 1956. There's been no change in that number since then, other than, as Senator Ruud mentioned, they did include 1 fish over 20 inches in the early 2000s. Otherwise, that's the only change. If you think of all the many different changes that have happened in fishing since 1956, first off, your boats, they're no longer using 12-foot boats with 10-horse motors or even oars for that matter. Now it's 20-foot boats with 200-horse motors. Anglers are literally able to fish in all kind of weather conditions safely and very effectively. Next is the fishing electronics. 1956, there was not any electronics. And as Senator Ruud called them gadgets and gadgets, there's lots of that stuff. Now it's pretty commonplace for boats to have 2 to 4 different graphs in them that show the lake bottom contour. You have the ability to mark fish. You can literally see fish in any direction of your boat for several hundred feet and also what direction they're moving. So that's been a big change. It is true that fishing electronics can't make a fish bite. However, it makes the angler able to maximize their time on the water and identify key locations and stay on top of the fish until they bite in many instances. The fishing pressure actually has increased exponentially over the last 5 to 10 years. One of the big changes that affected the amount of fishing pressure on walleyes is the popularity of wheelhouses and ice camping in the winter. Anglers are now able to spend several days fishing around the clock compared to people used to go up for a couple hours in their portable right at sundown. I believe the DNR has data showing the increase on fishing pressure on many of these lakes, so I will leave that to them if it's of interest of any of the members. Related to the increase in fishing pressure is proficiency of your average angler right now, and also the sharing of information via social media. I was recently in a fishery meeting with Al Linder of Linder's Media, and Al said that Minnesota likely has the largest number of very good walleye fishermen of anywhere in the state. That includes tournament fishermen, fishing guides, and just your average public person. That is a very big statement. Since COVID, the number of people fishing this past summer and winter has been incredible. This is truly great to see. We encourage all people to get out and utilize fishing and the resources. However, with that, the popularity as it's increased has no doubtably put extra pressure on the walleye population across the state, especially at a time when the DNR was unable to conduct their spring egg take for stocking purposes due to COVID. Walleye fishing is at the heart of Minnesota tourism. It's the state fish and it drives many vacations for family and friends. 90% of my guide clients throughout the years, when I ask them what they want to target for the day, always respond with walleyes. It's also my professional experience that with most clients who would rather have the chance of catching many fish rather than just enough for their limit. Minnesota is known as a great walleye fishing area, and we need to keep it that way. All bordering states and provinces already have a daily limit ranging from 2 to 5 fish, so lesser than the 6 fish limit we're at. Another benefit of moving a statewide bag limit to 4 is to simplify current regulations. Currently, as Senator Ruud stated, several bodies of water across the state already have a 4 fish limit. This would just put it in line across the state and make it more consistent for angler understanding. The larger lakes that already have a 4 fish limit include Lake of the Woods, Leech, Upper Red Lake, Rainy Lake, just to name a few. And it has not seemed to hurt the tourism in those areas. If nothing else, I would say it has increased. Proven that if a lake has a healthy population of biting walleyes, that fishermen will flock to that lake. In closing, it is debatable whether changing the limit from 6 down to 4 will drastically change walleye populations or if it's more of a social change. However, I'm a firm believer that it cannot hurt, and with all the extra stressors that walleye populations are experiencing currently, it's time for Minnesota to be proactive rather than reactive, protect our walleye fishery. Over the past 2 years, we've received input from anglers, sporting groups, lake association, and the feedback on this initiative has been overwhelmingly in favor of a limit reduction. Anglers are willing to take these self-regulating steps if it has the potential to increase the potential for catching more walleyes in Minnesota in the long term. I'd also like to thank the State Citizen Walleye Committee for their years of effort on this matter as well, as Senator Ruud had mentioned. So with that, I thank you very much for your time, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Blazing. We'll proceed through the rest of the testifiers and then open it up for questions. Next, we have Mr. Brad Parsons from the DNR Fisheries. Welcome, Mr. Parsons. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Brad Parsons. I am currently the Section of Fisheries Manager for the Department of Natural Resources in St. Paul. Mr. Blazing did a really good job of covering a lot of the reasons why we're interested in doing this. I think I would like to add just a couple of things. Number one, Senator Senjum, you may know this more than anyone, but through a long process, we changed our regulations on the Mississippi River, working closely with Wisconsin. And one of those changes was a bag of 4 on walleyes. And it was generally very highly supported, but we did have our critics on that one. But after this year of fishing, how good the fishing's been on Lake Pepin and other places, they came back and said they were very interested in this. You know, there are just so many other reasons that we could do this, but I think Mr. Blazing stating the state wanting to be proactive rather than reactive. And I want to reiterate our thanks to everybody for getting out fishing and increasing our license sales. It's going to give us the ability to do a better job of monitoring those lakes. You know, one of the things we use license fees on are things called creel surveys, where we actually get out on the water or at the accesses, interview the anglers as they come off the lake to find out exactly what they're thinking, exactly what they're catching, and how long they're out there fishing. You know, for the past, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but for the previous 2 years, we had over 3 million hours of angling, ice fishing only angling pressure on Lake Mille Lacs. And that was with a far more restrictive regulation than what we have, what is being proposed here statewide. So with that, I'll stop, and if there are any questions for me afterwards, I'd be happy to answer them as well.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. And next we'll turn once again to Mr. Meyer. Mr. Meyer, I assume based on Senator Ruud's comments about the extra fishing license sales, you must be swimming in money right now. He's not going to come on with that. Okay.
I'll remind
on
you,
that one.
I'll remind you, Mr. Chairman, the legislature still has to appropriate those funds, so we aren't.
Oh, very
swimming in
good.
any money yet.
I'm glad someone recognizes that.
My comments are very brief. I want to thank Senator Ruud for bringing this issue forward and thank everyone who's worked on this issue. The department was planning on bringing this as an initiative forward based on the interest last session, and we had a great conversation with Senator Ruud, and she was willing to move forward with our support. So it's a great tri-branch issue that we're working on with the executive branch, the House and Senate all being in support. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. I don't see any comments or hands raised. Senator Sinjum.
I can't resist. I always have to have a question. Maybe if this one's for Mr. Meyer, it's something that, I think that we all think we know, but what is an inland water? And for instance, is the Red River an inland water? Is Lake Superior an inland water? The Mississippi River, et cetera.
Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Chairman, I might actually defer to Senate counsel on that one. It's the way I view it as waters that are within the borders of the state. But I don't know if that's the right definition or not. So I'm gonna.
Mr. Knopf, do you have the answer?
Well, Mr. Chair, generally we have specific restrictions on border waters. I think inland waters does not include border waters. I don't know if Mr. Parsons has a different take on it, but my understanding is it does not include the border waters, which are usually negotiated with other states and or provinces, depending on the location, and are treated differently than inland waters. So when we say a regulation on inland waters, it does not include those border waters.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. And Mr. Parsons, you have a comment. I think you're on mute, Mr. Parsons.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, that is correct. We do have separate border water regulations for North and South Dakota, Ontario, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, Minnesota, et cetera. All of those are currently, with the exception of the St. Croix River, all of those are currently less than the inland current 6 fish and proposed 4 fish bag limit for walleyes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other questions, members?
Mr. Chair, just a comment.
Yes, Senator Sinjum.
Mr. Chair, I have never caught 6 walleyes in my life, so I'm quite able to live with this.
Let the record show Senator Sinjum has not hurt the walleye population. And then I don't see anyone else at this particular point. Senator Ruud, would you like any final comments and then to make the motion to approve the bill and send it to State Government Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, this is one of those bills that there's so many partners and so many people have worked on, and it's really exciting to see everybody come together to help the resources and the thing that we love best in Minnesota, and that's fishing. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, because when this first came to me, I'll tell you a little story on myself. So I was going down 371 and I said, I don't think I know enough about this. And so there was a gentleman that was a guide going by me that went by me. And so it said, 1-800 dial bait or something. I don't know. So I called him up and I said, you just passed me in the car. And so can you tell me about this issue? And from there, they passed me on to somebody who was actually on the lake fishing. And so I got to talk to all these folks that were so passionate about this issue. So it's really been a fun issue to negotiate. And it's been fun because there's so many partners, and we have a lot of partners in the state and the House. And, it's one of those really good things. So I appreciate your support, and I so move.
Very good. Senator Ruud moves that Senate File 12 be recommended to pass as amended and be referred to the State Government Committee. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. The bill is passed and hereby re-referred. That, members, concludes our business for the day, unless you have anything else, Senator Ruud.
No, thank you. Thank you for the support.
With that, members, this committee meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you.